So can I welcome you all to the Terminology Leading Practices stream of the SNOMED CT Expo 2022. My name's Elaine Waller and I'm a senior terminologist at SNOMED International, and I'm moderating today's session. Can I just let you know all questions will be answered at the conclusion of the session. In the room we have a mic that we can bring you. If you're online and listening to the session, please use the Q&A box for any questions. I'm now pleased to introduce Erica Culp from the Sweden National Board of Health and Welfare, who are presenting Harmonizing Translation of ICNP and SNOMED CT, the realisation of an international collaboration at a national level.
Yes.
Erica, please go on.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my session here. So today what I want to talk about is a project that we started based on the international collaboration between SNOMED International and International Council of Nurses, and that is for the owners of ICNP. So that's what I'm going to explain to you today. And let's see which way. There, towards there. And so it's really about when a history of collaboration becomes more. And that's exactly what happened here. SNOMED International has had a long history with ICN, and they've worked together with their terminologies previously. So it's not a new collaboration. But now with the international agreement, it has become something more. And that's what we had a reaction to. So at the Swedish NRC, we do have a history as well with our local nursing professional organization, SweNurse. So we've also collaborated with them in the past. We've had many discussions before about ICNP and being able to make it one of our national terminologies. So in 2018, we started an inquiry to basically look at where ICNP was being used regionally, how we could use it nationally, and put it alongside our other classifications and terminologies that I have listed here. And international was a little faster than us. So we kind of got a quick, nice decision here in that context. Because like I said, we were between a rock and a hard place. We weren't ready to make a decision just yet. But when the international agreement came about, it just really aligned with our overall goal, and that is to be cross-collaborative across the health sections. We want our terminologies to be able to be used interoperably, regardless of if it's nursing, if it's doctors, if it's dietitians. So that was something that was really important. So this agreement gave us the ability to access ICNP as a member of SNOMED International. It also gave the ability, as I said, to facilitate sharing of content between the and across healthcare professions and systems. So this was a key element into that decision. And then something that's one of the really good elements, because I'm also a nurse, is the ability to capture nursing care in a standardized way. And that's very important in the context of ICNP, of course. So when we started our project, we had kind of anticipated this. So we were keeping our eye out and watching what was going on internationally. So we decided to do a piggyback effect. So we basically just followed along, hung on for the ride, and tried to get as close to the stakeholders as we could. So we used the international collaboration as our template. And we also started immediately. So we started in parallel to their international work group project. That had a little pros and cons there that I'll talk about later. And then we also wanted to be realistic and keep our work processes and structures in alignment. We're the Swedish NRC, and we already have a really good structure with translation of our national edition. So we didn't want to add additional elements, additional resources, and things like that we might not be able to keep up with in the long run. So this is just a quick overview of the timeline. So we had a slow start with our inquiry going on, and then at the end phase of that inquiry, boom, we got the international agreement. Thank you very much. International SNOMED CT. Yes. And then we had already been in the planning phase with our SWE-NURSE, which is the national, which is the nursing, professional nursing organization. So we had already really started working and collaborating even before the agreement dropped. There was already discussions happening. And so that's why when we started our project, we could start a project so quickly, directly in 2021. And then that's another reason why we could also do our first translation release, also in 2021. So really, really quickly. So another element to why we were able to do this is because of our foundation of collaboration with the nursing organization. And I have my partner here with me. I'm just going to have you raise your hand, Jan Florin. This is my partner from the nursing organization, SWE-NURSE, that has been fundamental in our ability to do this translation. So we identified our common goals. We know for the Swedish NRC, the goal is to have high quality translation. We want to support usage of SNOMED CT, and we want to strengthen cooperation between the clinical fields. And that's exactly what the goal that SWE-NURSE has as well for ICNP. So that was an easy no-brainer. Then we needed to really define our roles and responsibilities. Who's responsible for what? What are the rules of engagement here? What are our resource alignment? It's definitely nothing fiscal. I would say no one's getting paid extra money. We're not really getting a lot of extra time here. So we really needed to make sure that we put the right resources and the amount of resources we needed in place. And then we needed to define our commitments. We needed to be committed to this project from both sides of the aspect of the translation of this terminology. And then for sustainability, even in the project phase, we started thinking about a long-term collaboration. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to pull successful norms from the project right over to our maintenance phase. We wanted to make sure we streamlined our processes, as I said, within the Swedish NRC. We're not going to change what we do. We're going to continue to do what we do, and we're going to add to it with the help of the nursing organization, of course. And then we wanted to make realistic expectations. I'm not Elon Musk. I'm not building a rocket ship. We are not building a rocket ship here. We need to be focused on what it is we're trying to do and be very realistic about what the expectation is. And since it was so new, we really were unsure of where we were going to go here, but we made it work. So one of those streamlined processes or norms that we actually created within the project that we continue to have today were our meetings with purpose. So we designed a meeting structure with the SWE-NURSE, the nursing organization. We had a dialogue forum. That's where all the decisions made. That's where the heavy lifting of planning and things like that were done. And that was with the project members, and then also the decision makers, my boss back here, Niklas, and then the head of SWE-NURSE. And then also Janne and I and other Daniel back here were part of the project group. So we kept a little tight knit bubble there. Then we had the expert working group, and that was Janne, who led that group from the SWE-NURSE side of things. They had already done previous translations of ICNP, and they're ICNP members. So that is their jam, as I would say there. So we made sure we kept it there. And then I also participated in the group as a representative of SNOMED knowledge. So we worked really tight to look at the translations together and try to harmonize what we wanted to do there. And then we had our National Release Center group, which is what we have now. And I have a couple of members back here already too, King Ling and Daniel Carlson back here in our group, and Emma too. I see some nice faces. Hello guys, thanks for supporting me. So this is the support that we even had in this group. So we really worked together to keep things in line with what we already were doing, because that was very important to have sustainability. So what are the deliverables? We had our own joint agreement with SWE that we signed about our commitments to this project and to the future collaborations. We have a Swedish language type reference set that we use to place our translations. We have a long-term management plan. When I said we thought about the sustainability of the project, so we also had to make sure we secured that sustainability in a plan surrounding our release cycle and the do's and the don'ts. Who's responsible for what? And then we also had several communication and educational efforts that we're doing together as we are today, and workshops and conferences. And then we were able to publish a national report about that project and just kind of show that ICNP has integrated with SNOMED CT and was available for use. So one thing is, when you think you know a lot of things, you start to realize that you really don't know a lot of things. So there's also a lot of pros and cons to the work that we did, and I'll summarize them here. And you turn over a rock and you really don't know what's going to come out. And we definitely had difficulty coping. We had coordination problems, we had language difficulties, and we were having a hard time coming to terms with loss because there was changes that happened here. And as my sister said yesterday, when I forced her to listen to me, she said, and that's why I don't turn over no rocks. So I was like, okay, thanks, sis. We had to turn over this rock. And then, so some of the themes that we had from this collaboration were the changes, because ICNP and SNOMED CT were then integrating. So ICNP was actually adopting the SNOMED CT structure, and that's new, and that's things we have to learn and work with there. The time frame, I think we heavily underestimated the workload, and as I said, the things you don't know, you don't realize you don't know. So there was a lot of late nights and working hard to the end of the project because the time frame was slightly underestimated for sure. There's dependency and influence. As you know, SNOMED CT is a living, breathing thing. There's changes going on constantly. There's other projects to the side of this, both externally and internally, that we had to watch how they were affecting those identified SNOMED CT concepts. So that was something we did. Source language versus target language in translation work, that's always a big thing there. But going from two English source languages and two Swedish target languages, and doing those comparisons really took a lot more time. And there was a really large change in meanings based on this integration. So that was really a lot of the underestimated workload that we had to deal with. And then culture, as you guys hear, I'm American, and I'm working at the Swedish NRC. And so that was an interesting aspect, because culture versus context. In English, I would interpret something a lot different than my partners. And sometimes it would be like, oh, I'm thinking about it like this, and they would be thinking about it like this. But I think that's important that we had to have those type of discussions, because I think it brought a lot to this translation work to have someone that had their fluency or their national language would be English, and then the other national language would be Swedish. So we were able to really connect that, and it worked well. And then technical issues, of course, with module dependencies, when release times were going to happen, how can we connect that to our release schedule? That was something that also came up in our project. So what did we do with the harmonization? We had about 80% of new hybrid SNOMED CT translations that we worked on and had to create. And then we had 20% that were existing SNOMED CT translations. So that tells you how much went into really dissecting these concepts and what they meant when they integrated into SNOMED CT. And of those new translations, about 60% were grammatical conjugations. We wanted to make sure that nurses were able to use this terminology as more of an interface terminology. So we based that off of how they were documenting in Sweden. And so there was verbiage that we used, verbs instead of, so we use a lot more verbs. And look, I don't even know my own conjugations in English. Oh, goodness. I'll get better soon. And then 40% of this was things that we gained from this collaboration. We were able to improve our SNOMED CT translations, of course, because we were able to have that dialogue on the clinical subject experts together with us to improve our translations. So it's very helpful. Oh, that went a little too. Okay, I'll just keep moving on. Okay, so where are we now? There's always room for improvement, of course. I don't think this is working. Okay, sorry. Oh. Technical difficulties. We also experienced this in the project. No, it's okay. Eat up the question time. That's what I'm worried about. So how has all of your days been going? Having a good time here?
It's a good time here. Isn't it? It's a glorious place.
It is nice.
Yeah.
All the goodies around, not good for me, not good.
Food's very good.
I mean, it's good, but I don't need any more of it.
We're back.
Okay. Okay, we can start here. So where are we now? Yes, we had a lot of indirect effects with our project, and that directly affected our quality assurance. As I said before, we had improved translations because we had better cooperation between the clinical experts. And that's, you know, a clear win. We also look a little bit at our reference sets differently because we actually made a plan and rules of engagement around who's owning and participating in the management of the reference set, and that would be Swedish. So we do that together. And that's something that made us look a little bit about how we manage our reference sets in the future. And then we definitely spread awareness here. I know Swedish has been very integral in really promoting ICNP and that it's available now through SNOMED CT. So universities and institutions are interested. I think we're going to be having a presentation in November with them because we did identify that it's very important to begin with education and how we're using ICNP and also SNOMED CT. And then also there's a lot of interesting things with community health going on, because I think one thing we really did notice was that once ICNP was integrated into SNOMED CT, we gained a lot of health promotion concepts and also illness prevention concepts. So these are things that are very functional in community health as well. So that's a win that that SNOMED International actually gained. And then future endeavors. We want to work on national patient safety and classifications and how we can mold these things together with now that ICNP is in SNOMED CT. So lessons learned. Make sure you keep your ear to the ground. As I said, external and internal factors have influence on your project. So that's very important. Cast a wider net. Seek knowledge, share knowledge, and you usually gain both when you share. So it's very important to be open with what you're doing, to discuss it, to network. I actually work very closely with the nursing clinical reference group, and that was very helpful because I made a lot of networking partners to discuss this. And then bite the bullet, be flexible. You might overestimate how much time you have, and sometimes you just have to put put a lot more work than you think, but be flexible or you might have to pivot. And also make sure you look beyond. It's very important to see what is the usefulness of what you're trying to do and have a focus on the goal there. So, thank you so much. Are there any questions?
Yeah, we've still got time for a couple of questions.
No.
So there's none in the QA section at the moment. Have we got some questions in the room? Okay.
Thank you very much for this presentation. And we're from the German NRC very happy to hear this because we are doing exactly the same project right now.
Awesome.
So we're so happy to learn from you.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because we have an existing translation of ICNP and it's not aligning with our guidelines that we did for our German translation, how we could use these translation. And we thought, okay, these could be acceptable synonyms and we do the preferred terms.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You answered your own question.
Perfect.
You answered your own questions. And that's another reason why we use the language reference set, because it added a little bit more flexibility to how we can integrate the translations, because there are differences when it comes to how we're our rules and regulations on translating SNOMED CT versus the needs for nurses to use it directly in their EHR. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Erica, for a great presentation. I'm Ole Woge from the Norwegian NRC.
Hey,
I
Ole.
have a question. If I understood right, you have created your own language reference set.
Yes.
Yes. And was the reason because of like verbs?
Yes.
Or were there other issues also, which
It was mainly the verbiage, the verb issues, because we have a very standard way of translating SNOMED CT, and I think you guys probably have the same similar way. And we wanted to be able to integrate the way that the previous translations were using verbs into SNOMED CT, our edition. And so the way we did that was by using a language reference set, because then we could justify the change of the verbs in the conjugation.
with the other issues than verbs, which made you
I mean, there was also word preferences. We have like our what would you call our patterns of which words we use to translate different English words. And maybe that was slightly different than the pattern that ICNP had previously. So it'd be like a word variation and a change out there as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, that was a nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm from Canada,
Mhm.
and we are aware that there's French translation that has been done. Now, the question is to know how to proceed, to whom we need to ask for authorization, if you will, to leverage this translation that has been done from the ICNP content,
Mhm.
so that we can or even we also have a common French
Mhm.
language ref set. So either of that.
Do you have connections with the professional nursing organization that translated it for ICNP?
Well, one person translated a bunch of concepts, but
Yeah.
now she's retired.
Oh,
So we have tried
Have-
to get some of any, of the documents. We couldn't.
Okay.
And so we're not sure to whom we need to request that authorization.
I can give you a contact name to ICN, and that would be Nick Hardiker. We maybe can talk after this. So I would contact ICN directly in that question. And for us, we worked with the previous translators of ICNP closely, and that was something that we discussed in our clinical, the nursing clinical reference group with SNOMED CT, because the main partners for the project, the international project, also participate in that group. So as we were doing our project parallel to theirs, we had like these discussions about who are we working with? And one of the things that he said, it needs to be the previous translators. That's who they accepted at that time. Now, we didn't ask a lot more other details, and so we just kept moving forward. And I think it's because we worked in parallel before things were finished that we kind of snuck in the door here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we can conclude the session there. We're just about to, sorry, just run out of time there. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again, Erica. Thank you very much.